Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Monday, September 9th. Bit of a somber day here in Duval County after the Jaguars fall really in embarrassing fashion, collapse in the second half against the Miami Dolphins. We're going to talk about my top takeaways from this football game. It's been however many hours now. It's Monday morning. Kind of marinating on this loss a little bit, what it means, what the top takeaways are. So we're going to dive into all that good stuff here. I thought the defense played fast, physical, aggressive. Hats off to the defensive coaching staff and to the defensive players. You are not going to hold Miami down the whole game, but they didn't shrink at all. And in fact, in some big moments, they did great work in the second half. When the offense gives Miami the ball in scoring position almost at the end of the game, you hold them to a field goal. I'm not going to blame you for that. Not one bit. And again, you're going to have some big plays given up against the Miami Dolphins. You absolutely are. You just can't hold that football team down the entire game. But overall, again, fast, physical, aggressive. Ryan Nielsen's mantra with this defense is to attack. I believe that's exactly what they did for most of this ball game. Whether it was linebacker play, defensive front play, secondary play, overall, it was very strong. Was there a couple of big plays given up? Yeah. Early on, Darnell Savage, Tyreek Hill was able to beat him deep. It's going to happen at times. Tua Tagovailoa couldn't connect with him. Then you did have the big Tyreek Hill play, and you also had Jalen Waddle getting deep downfield and drawing a pass interference on Tyson Campbell. So those were the three real big plays. But again, I said before the game, even though I thought the Jaguars were going to win the game, that there would be those big plays. So that's not a surprise. And to hold them down the rest of the game overall, I thought was very good. I did. But now you do have to worry about Tyson Campbell's injury. He was playing really good football. I think outside of that play where he got hurt against Jalen Waddle, he was locking it down pretty much the entire game. So I thought that that was great performance by Tyson Campbell overall, but now you have to worry about the hamstring. We should find out more about that when Doug Peterson speaks with the media around 1:45. Maybe we'll get some word on it a little bit earlier than that, but hopefully at 1:45 we'll get a real update on the severity of Tyson Campbell's injury, and you hope that he doesn't have to miss significant time, but you also can't rush him back, right? Hamstrings can be tricky. You do not want to rush a hamstring, and that's the type of injury that can linger. So that's a pretty brutal one, unfortunately. Hopefully it's not a long-term injury, but we'll just have to see what happens there. So defense, again, hats off. Really appreciated the effort, the coaching. Quick reminder, if you enjoy the content here, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, become a channel member here on YouTube. But getting back to this football game, I thought offensive play calling early in the game and late in the game was pretty putrid. You come out to start the game, you try to run play action on the very first play. No one accounts for Calais Campbell. They were ready for it. Absolutely. Every single play you drew up offensively on the first drive, they were ready for. And to me, it wasn't like an execution thing where the coaches can say, oh, well, we had this dialed up. It just wasn't executed right. The Miami Dolphins defense was ready for all three of those plays. And you were not ready for what they had from an offensive design standpoint on that first offensive drive. And at the end of the game, it was really hard to watch. It was really hard to watch at the end of the game. The offense folded, in my opinion. Whether it was getting entirely predictable with the runs after Travis Etienne's fumble and after Tyreek Hill's touchdown, you go out with 6 straight run plays. 8 of the next 9 plays were runs. You're trying to salt the game away only up by 3 points against one of the best offenses, most explosive offenses in football. Like, the offensive coaching staff must do better in that regard, in my opinion. They were playing not to lose. They were not playing to win. Like, let Trevor Lawrence win you that damn football game. You paid him $55 million. He's your franchise quarterback. He's in year 3 of this system. He's got weapons. Let him win the game. And I'm not saying you don't run the ball, but when this offense was humming at times during this game, there was balance. 8 runs to 1 pass is not balance. It's predictable. You cannot go into a shell up 3 points against the Miami Dolphins. So, to me, again, that's on the offensive coaching staff. Strongly feel that way. Now, offensive execution issues. There were certainly some of those, right? And I think they're fixable. I really do. Some of the big issues with the offensive execution here, Christian Kirk, 2 dropped passes. He's not going to be dropping passes like that consistently throughout the year. He did miss time recently. I'm not making excuses for him. And he said after the game, his performance was unacceptable. He's got to do better. And I think he will do better. We've seen Christian Kirk play very well for the Jacksonville Jaguars during his time in Jacksonville. ETN can't have that fumble. And yeah, it was a great play on the ball. Javon Holland, I believe. But you can't be fumbling like that. You got to keep it high and tight. Keep it outside. Can't be fumbling like that. And I don't think he will continue to fumble like that. He showed last year he can hold on to the football. Anton Harrison is not going to be getting beat like that every week. Like, this is a guy who, as a rookie, went up against some of the best edge players in football and played darn well. This might have been his worst game as a Jaguar, playing against Jalen Phillips for the most part. And I don't believe he's going to be getting beat like that every week. I don't. I think he's going to have a good sophomore campaign here. And again, with tackles, it's like you play good 90% of the game. That's not good enough. You got to play good like 97 to 98% of the game to have a really good game in pass protection as a tackle. So you get beat a couple times and it's not good. So Anton Harrison's got to do better. And again, that offense at the end of the game was so predictable. They literally pretty much only passed the ball when they had to pass the ball. 8 of the 9 plays after that Tyreek Hill touchdown, after the Travis Etienne fumble, were runs. And then they had a couple passes, both got sacked because it was like, oh yeah, they're in a situation where now they have to pass the ball. Wonder what they're going to do. So yeah, Miami was better prepared at the end of this football game. Thought special teams did a good job outside of the Parker Washington return and fumble, but they got lucky with that one, fortunately. My final thoughts on this one, a couple individual thoughts. Well, group thought up front. Pass rush, it's going to get the job done. You know, Eric Armstead got his first sack as a Jacksonville Jaguar. That was awesome. Josh Hines-Allen was fighting through double teams. Trayvon Walker ends up with 2 sacks on the day. And I think that this group is going to get the job done. And then Brian Thomas Jr. How do you not target Brian Thomas Jr. in the second half? Well, I'll tell you how. You stop throwing the ball. Stop throwing the ball. You got to have some balance. You can't be predictable. You can't go into a shell. You can't play not to lose. It's not in this league. If you do that, you're going to get beat. Up 3 points. I mean, I could see it if you were up, 17, sure. Try to salt the clock away. I get it. You're up 3 points. You weren't doing that before the ETN fumble and the Tyreek Hill touchdown. Why are you doing it now? That's not what got you to this point. So it doesn't make any sense to me. And yeah, like the running game was strong before that, but it wasn't predictable. You were running and throwing. You had play action going. You were balanced. You lost your balance. You lost the way at the end there for the coaching staff. And yeah, there was some offensive execution errors, certainly coaching errors, little pass protection errors here and there. So frustrating result, certainly. And obviously the Travis Etienne fumble was the catalyst for the Jaguars going into a shell offensively. But yeah, that was the turning point. But in my opinion, what lost the game was what they did after that. Bottom line. Because you were still up. You could have still won that football game. You could have still put points on the board, but you went into a shell. So that's going to do it. Those are my top takeaways from the embarrassing loss. We will have offensive standouts and defensive standouts coming up over the next 24 hours. And I think there's a lot of things to be encouraged about here with this football game. Because I think it was clear that, like, from a talent standpoint, it's there. From a coaching standpoint on the defensive side of the ball, it's there. There's a lot of good with the offensive coaching as well. It's just you can't go into a shell at the end of the game against the Miami Dolphins. You can't do it. So I think the Jaguars still have a solid season ahead of them. I'm still in on them being a playoff football team. I had the Jaguars and Dolphins both making the playoffs. And look, I picked the Jaguars to win this game this week. Thought over the last couple weeks things were moving in their favor, injury luck, things like that. But I still think both these teams are playoff teams. And early on, when the schedule first came out, I chalked this up as a loss. Playing in Miami, week 1, Dolphins usually start out hot. So it's not the end of the world, but the biggest takeaway here is that you can't have some of the execution errors, and you cannot go into a shell against a team like that. But Brian Thomas Jr., hats off to you. Pass rush, hats off to the whole defense. They did a good job. Again, really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content here, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, become a channel member here on YouTube. Y'all have a good one.